Thank you for joining Think, Build, Launch podcast. This is an extension of Marl Accelerator. Marl is an early stage accelerator fund for startups developing deep tech products and services for customers using 5G technology. Marl aims to create a community of investors, founders, and corporate venture teams in sectors like mobility, AR/VR, autonomous, robotics, and logistics. We invest in next generation of founders that are reshaping the world of enterprise. Our program, Think, Build, Launch, features members of the Marl community, including founders, service providers, and investors and mentors. Today's guest is Rachna Dayal. Rachna Dayal is currently managing a health tech VC fund called Sugati Ventures that focuses on medical devices and health tech platforms. Some of her key accomplishments include successfully managing a P&L of $350 million and a global commercial launch in pharmaceuticals for depression and suicidal drugs, which is so important today. It's one of the biggest issues of our time. And she has successfully leading a technology startup in the Bay Area for the past 3 years. She has extensive board and governance experience across startups and nonprofit organizations. So, Rachna, it is an honor to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. It's a delight to be here. And I'm a big fan of the Marl Accelerator, so really happy to be with you.
You have started the Sugati Ventures, and your focus is on medical devices and health tech platforms. Can you take us to the origin, like an origin story about what got you really interested in the power of medical tech?
Sure. So I started my career as an engineer, electronics engineer to be more precise. And, the first 11 years of my career was spent in engineering. And then when I transitioned to healthcare in 2011, I realized that, technology was not playing as big a role in healthcare as an engineer like me would want to see, right? And then when we went through the pandemic, technology became an integral part of delivering healthcare. It became an integral part of everything, connectivity, making sure things got done, even though people were remote. And we've seen a real push in integration of technology with healthcare. At that point, I realized that this is something I wanted to be a part of and start investing in through the pandemic. So I left my company, J&J, last year to start my own fund, which is focused on medical devices and health tech platforms. Why particularly these two sub-verticals? Because I'm an engineer in training. I've worked in healthcare. I understand, how healthcare and technology come together. And these two pillars in healthcare are really focused on technology engineering, whether it's AI kind of engineering or it's medical device kind of engineering, so the underlying technology layer is very, very strong in healthcare.
And I do remember in 2021 was the first year on the Fast Company Top 50 Companies was the first time, and there were 3 healthcare technologies in that 50, and that was the first time. So it certainly is important. One of the things, as I was reading about you and researching, is that you really talk about being an outcomes-based leader. Can you explain what that means to you and how it's influenced your approach to managing venture organizations?
That's a $1 billion question, to be very honest, because it's outcome-based, right? So what really works? In the field of innovation, we come across a lot of things that look very interesting or they're very new and very different. But in healthcare, the question becomes, can we take this technology to the patients? Can we take it to the providers? Will the payers actually pay for it? And payers, as if you read a lot about healthcare reimbursements, you'll realize they are becoming more and more outcome-based payments, right? So whatever is not focusing on outcomes will not get reimbursed, right? So the standard principle of what are the outcomes in any business becomes even more important in healthcare, because you will not get paid for something that doesn't deliver the outcomes in healthcare that are needed. And we can see that in our healthcare system, which for the past 3 decades was not very outcomes focused. And because of that, it's not been profitable, and it's resulting in a lot of inefficiencies, in a lot of hospital systems shutting down. So being an outcomes leader is the demand of present day in healthcare, I would say, which is something that cannot be ignored, cannot be neglected. And I hold that very dear to the investing principles that I follow.
That's really great. Can you share the Sugati Ventures portfolio thesis with us?
So the portfolio thesis is around, the field of medical devices and health tech platforms. So in health tech platforms, what I'm focusing on is companies in the seed and Series A stage, and technologies that either improve access to healthcare for underserved communities, or it's going to make remote health and mobile health more possible with the help of technology integration, something that can make big, bulky medical devices smaller and less intrusive. So it can probably promote less intrusive surgery, or it can enable faster recovery post-surgery. Those are the areas I'm focused on. In medical devices, again, the theme is really going mobile, going smaller, going more nimble, and going more accurate.
That's great.
So that at the end of the day, patients have, a better outcome after every surgery.
One of the things that Marl, I'm in Rochester, New York, and Marl, one of the things we're kind of working on is building a bridge between New York and California. And we have the Medical Tech Association that actually has the med tech companies between Syracuse, Rochester, and Buffalo. So I'm very excited to get you some exposure to that and hear about this so important, and hopefully you're able to teach some of those disciplines, in terms of engineering and lean thinking. And are there some elements in engineering processes that you're able to bring over and to teach some of the startups?
It starts all the way from by evaluating the startup, right? By looking at the technology. So when I'm considering a medical device, one of the things that, I'm able to bring to bear is, what is this device really going to do? What is the unmet market need, right? Can this be delivered using something else that already exists? And if not, then once the device and the prototype have been proven, can it be taken into manufacturing, right? As an engineer, that's very important, because it's one thing to do proof of concept at the lab level with a medical device. It's another thing to create a device that can be manufactured at scale, right? So that it can actually have the market potential that's being projected by the entrepreneur. And therein the lean principles, the manufacturing principles come in. I mean, I'm an engineer. Take me to any manufacturing site and I can take a look at the processes and start questioning what can be done at scale or not. And I think that comes in very handy. So in some cases, I am able to help the entrepreneurs. The other angle where I'm able to bring value is also, I'm an electronics engineer by nature. I worked in that field for 11 years. And when I talk about taking medical devices mobile, that means that a lot of the tasks that was happening on the device can now be done on the software, integrating with the device, and the principles of digital signal processing and the principles of cloud computing come into play. So that's another area where I can be helpful to the entrepreneurs.
And in your experience before, I mean, it was global, there was US, Europe, Asia. What are some of the differences and similarities you noticed in healthcare and the technologies across those regions?
One of the biggest differences in healthcare, which is not a technical difference, but it's more a reimbursement difference, is the methods and the means by which healthcare is reimbursed or not reimbursed across the globe. So, for example, in US, you will have a mix of public and private insurance. And when you go to European countries, it's predominantly insurance through the government. The government is the biggest payer. If you go to the Asian markets, it's mainly out of pocket. And that creates a lot of differences in the way a new healthcare technology can be launched in these markets. And so the price point becomes very important. When you're launching something in Asia, you've got to think about the consumer buying it. Mm-hmm. Right? Versus when you're talking about US, you have the luxury of having, reimbursements happening through insurance. So that's one big difference in healthcare. In technology, I think I'll give you a very small example, right? So when you start thinking about sensory devices that take skin measurements, some of the traditional devices like blood pressure monitoring that can be done mobile, they are more accurate for Caucasian skin, right? But when you think of the healthcare market, it's a very global market with varying skin tones. When you start going all the way from the Nordics to Africa and to Asia, right? Very different skin tones. And so we need devices that can actually work with sensors that are applicable across all skin tones and will do accurate measurements across all skin tones. So I think that's something that we have to be very mindful of when we think about global healthcare, because in healthcare, nobody should be left behind because of the color of their skin, their ethnicity, their gender, or their age group, honestly.
The future of personalized medicine has so much room to grow. And the idea that people are out there, don't assume that just because there's an application out there, it's an application applicable for you. What is the best advice that, if you think of having an audience of startups, and some might do medical device, some may not do medical device, what is your macro level of advice? And then what is your very specific advice in the medical field?
So for startups at the macro level, this is industry agnostic, right? We're dealing with very uncertain times, and we're faced with real challenges that we understand. Do something meaningful. Go after something that is a big problem to solve. Don't go after Me Too solutions. That helps no one. And when you go after Me Too solutions, if you're solution number 10 or 11, you're putting a lot of time and effort into it. The chances of success become lower and lower. There are many markets where winner takes most all of it, right? If not everything. And in technology, that's very, very true. So I think tackle the bigger problems. There's a lot of unsolved big problems to be solved, whether it's climate tech, whether it's agri-tech, whether it's health tech, whether it's generative AI, making our lives better. Go after big, hairy problems to solve, because the world needs it more than ever. We're living through 2 wars right now, right? We're living through climate shifts that we've never seen before, unprecedented. We're living through healthcare challenges where even just in US, hospitals are shutting down day after day, right? Every day in the news, I read about this hospital shut down or that one shutting down. Where are people going to get their healthcare? So go for the big problems. There's enough room and there's enough piece of the pie for everyone if you actually do that. What that could mean is that you would find your solution after more thinking and after more brainstorming, but it would be a solution worth, spending your time and effort and money after. For healthcare, I think access is a big, big issue, which has not been solved yet. And access through efficiencies, access through automation, access through remote care, all of these, we still need to solve them. But I think there is a bigger need in healthcare for entrepreneurs to come together as think tanks where, you get people who are looking at access, you get people who are looking at providers, people who are looking at the patient and remote care side. And there's more thinking to be happened so that we can find more innovative solutions and not just another platform connecting a patient to a provider. Because we have 1 million of those, right? We don't need another one of those. We need other things in healthcare and hard to solve access issues. You brought up personalized medicine. I think I would love entrepreneurs in healthcare to think about personalization. Walk a day in the shoes of an old woman, or walk a day in the shoes of a person who has dementia, and then start redefining what personalized care looks like, right? Go try to hear the unheard voices. Voices, children can't speak for themselves. There's rare diseases that need to be resolved. Go help and create more solutions for that. There's enough funding available through grants and all to get you started. Just be aware of them and go after them.
What an incredible call to action. You've been listening to Rachna Dayal of Sugati Ventures. I'm so appreciative for you to be here in our program. I'd also like to thank the Marl community of partners and especially Sugati Ventures, who does some mentoring with us and is part of our community. I would also like to thank our producer, Scott Fitzgerald at RockFox Studio. If you have an idea or want to know more about our program, please connect with me, Jennifer, at Marl Accelerator. Please also subscribe to our program, and we will continue to share insights on how to frame a value proposition, raise capital, design for scale. This is Jennifer Sertle. Thank you for joining us.